3 Sinister True Night Drive Tales. Unexplained encounters that will haunt you forever. It was a Tuesday night when Lisa picked up her son, Jake, from the high school study session. The air outside felt thick, heavy with an unsettling charge. The suburban streets were eerily quiet, the flickering streetlights illuminating only bits of the road. In the rearview mirror, she thought she saw something, a fleeting shadow, but when she looked again, there was nothing there. Just her and Jake, the weight of their day pressing down on them. "You okay, Mom?" Jake asked, his bright eyes reflecting concern. "Yeah, just tired," she replied, dismissing the dread gnawing at her gut. But as they drove through the identical houses that loomed like sentinels, the sense of foreboding grew. Felt like someone was watching. They brushed off the feeling, fatigue clouding their judgment, but sleep wouldn't come easy. The next few days brought absurd occurrences. Pets began to vanish, fluffy cats, lazy dogs gone without a trace. The neighborhood buzzed with whispers, yet the local police turned a blind eye, suggesting it was simply the stuff of urban legends. Lisa felt shadows creeping into their lives, replacing once familiar comfort with anxiety that twisted her stomach. "It's just an animal, Mr. Thompson," their friendly neighbor said one afternoon when Lisa approached him about the disappearances. He smiled wide, a practiced charm that made her skin crawl. There was something sinister about that smile. She felt it, deep within her, a cold ripple of instinct that urged caution. But how could she turn on the kind man who used to bring freshly baked cookies? Then came the dare. Jake's friends dared him to cross the woods behind their house. "Just a quick walk, Mom," he assured her. But a chill shot through her. The woods had always felt menacing, a dark tangle of trees that whispered secrets. She wanted to say no, to pull him into a tight embrace, but all she managed was a nod, the unease settling deeper in her bones. Hours passed in torturous silence. Panic gripped her heart when Jake's phone went to voicemail. She rushed out into the night, calling his name as the trees swallowed her voice. With each passing minute, the weight of dread wrapped around her throat. "Where are you?" she whispered to the encroaching darkness. Lisa didn't want to think about what could have happened. And just as she felt despair tightening in her chest, she turned back toward home, heart racing. She sought Mr. Thompson. Surely he could help. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Gathering her courage, Lisa approached Mr. Thompson's front porch. He greeted her warmly, but that smile felt wrong now. As they chatted, she noticed the way his eyes shifted, darting to the door behind him, something lurking behind that friendly facade. The more she probed about the disappearances, the more she sensed the dread creeping back into her life. "It's just pets, Lisa," he chuckled, but the laughter held an edge, a hiss beneath the surface. Her mind raced. Could he know more than he let on? She had to know. That night, as shadows deepened, Lisa stood under the eerie streetlights, desperate for answers. Then, out of the darkness, she heard it, a shaky voice, haunting and familiar. "Mom, help!" pierced through the night like a knife. Her heart dropped as the laughter morphed into something twisted. The darkness pressed in, and for the first time, she knew the danger was closer than she had ever imagined. As she took a step forward, the chilling realization hit her: whatever evil lurked in her once peaceful neighborhood was now hunting her beloved son. And the nightmare was just beginning. She bolted toward the sound, panic fueling her every step. "Jake!" she screamed, her voice swallowed by the night. The trees loomed, an impenetrable wall of darkness, their branches like skeletal fingers. Each crackle of twigs beneath her feet echoed in the silence that followed. Was the voice coming from the woods? Or from somewhere closer? As she crossed onto the dim path, memories flooded back of childhood nights spent here, stories of ghosts and prowlers. Each echo of laughter now twisted into something sinister. She felt like a moth fluttering helplessly toward a flame. "Mom!" The voice came again, a desperate cry that sent her heart racing. "Hang on. I'm coming." Panic clawed at her chest as she pushed deeper into the blackened forest. Shadows danced between the trees, hiding whatever malevolent force might be lurking. A few yards in, the air turned stale, thick with an unnatural silence. Nothing stirred, no rustle of leaves or critter scuttling. Just the sound of her heartbeat hammering in her ears. Where was he? "Jake, please." She strained her ears for any response, desperate for reassurance. Then, a low growl emanated from somewhere ahead, low and menacing, replacing her fleeting hope with terror. Lisa's breath caught as she crept toward the source. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a flash of something white. "Jake?" She called again, fear creeping like ice down her spine. The underbrush parted, and she could see it. A figure seated against a tree, his body motionless, too silent. Suddenly, a door slammed in the distance, shattering the quiet of the woods. Lisa turned, her heartbeat quickening once more. The sound had come from Mr. Thompson's house. Was he watching her? The man had told her not to worry about the disappearances, to let it all go. But now the shadows didn't just feel heavy. They felt alive, creeping closer, feeding on her uncertainty. She rushed toward the figure, dread twisting her stomach. As she neared, she noticed it wasn't Jake. It was a dog, one she'd seen at the park. Its fur was stained with something dark. Lisa staggered back as a rush of nausea hit her. It can't be. Then she saw them. Tiny paw prints, leading deeper into the woods. Their size sent tremors through her. The giggles of children rang out from the shadows, haunting and gleeful, the sound bizarrely sweet against the backdrop of dread. She turned sharply, just in time to see a flicker of movement within the trees. Children watching, their eyes gleaming like predatory animals. There was no warmth in their laughter, just a chilling echo that made her skin crawl. "Mommy!" Jake's voice, coming from deeper in the forest. Lisa's heart lurched as she summoned every ounce of strength within her. "Jake!" She screamed, urgency taking control. But as she took another step forward, the laughter grew louder, surrounding her. The children stepped into the moonlight, their faces twisted with glee. They were not ordinary children. Their smiles stretched unnaturally wide, teeth too sharp. A cold wave of realization washed over her. These were the lost pets returned in a fashion that was twisted beyond comprehension. With each passing second, the reality of what lurked in the shadows roared to life. She stumbled backward as the children's laughter surged, louder, mocking. Then, without warning, the ground shifted beneath her, and the trees began to close in. Panic surged within her as the shadows gathered, hatching plans of their own. What was Mr. Thompson really hiding? As they edged closer, she knew that whatever nightmare rose from this place would soon consume more than just whispers and shadows. With one last desperate call for Jake, she plunged into the darkness, hoping to break the grasp of the sinister laughter trailing her like smoke. But would she reach her son before it was too late? And just as she felt the ground beneath her give way, she realized the real terror was just beginning to reveal itself. Lisa tumbled down into a hollow space, the ground giving way beneath her feet with a terrifying finality. It was dark, but she could sense the walls of the earth constricting around her. With a gasp, she landed hard on the damp, cold soil. Pain shot through her shoulder, but she had no time to linger on it. "Jake!" She cried again, her voice hoarse with fear. The echo of her own desperation was met with an unsettling silence. She raised her hands, searching for any sign of light or escape, but it was as if the world above had closed its doors. Panic clawed at her heart, pulsing in rhythm with the chilling laughter that trickled down to meet her from the surface. She pushed herself to a sitting position. Her eyes struggled to adjust. Soft whispers slithered through the darkness, wrapping around her like a shroud. "Mommy! Mommy! Mommy!" It was a chorus of mockery, a cruel imitation of Jake's voice twisted together with those of the children she had seen. Suddenly, The laughter surged louder. The sharpness of their mirth sliced through her, igniting a primal fear. Feral, hungry, they were circling her in this abyss, each laugh a testament to their malicious glee. "Shut up," she screamed, clenching her fists, fighting back the creeping despair. She had to focus, had to find Jake. If he was still out there, if he was still safe. Crawler shadows wove through the air like smoke around her. Taking a deep breath, Lisa forced herself to stand, the ground shifting beneath her feet as she sought a path forward. She pushed through the murky darkness, feeling wildly for any solid surface. Each step came with renewed dread, as the soft whispers grew more specific, calling her name. Mommy, it was Jake? Or was it? There was an unsettling quality to the sound. It felt tainted, infected with the joy of the hidden things that lurked in this place. Was it a trick? Would responding only solidify the darkness' grip? Desperation propelled her forward. "I'm coming. Where are you?" Suddenly lights flickered in the distance. Glistening orbs flashed like fireflies caught in a net. She stumbled toward them, believing they could be her salvation. The laughter swelled, warping into a cacophony of mocking yelps as she neared. She reached out a hand, entranced, when abruptly the lights extinguished, plunging her back into oppressive darkness. Panic surged again as she strained her eyes, trying to catch sight of anything, any hint that Jake was still out there, still alive. Then she heard it. The soft rustle of leaves, the last whispers of innocence. Something had joined her in the darkness. "Mommy, help me." Jake's voice shattered against the walls of her mind like glass. It was clear now, desperate but unwavering, guiding her through the shadows. "Jake, hold on," she yelled, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. But as she ran towards his call, she could hear the children's laughter erupting again, shifting from innocent delight to cruel taunting. "Mommy's coming. Jake, does she even know where you are? Can she find you?" Each laugh pierced her heart as she stumbled across something soft and warm, a patch of fur. The unmistakable smell of decay assaulted her senses. It was a dog, similar to the one she had seen before, lifeless and cold. "No," she cried, shoving the horror aside. Then it hit her. The ground began to rumble beneath her feet, rippling like water. She looked down, and the darkness around her started to swirl, morphing into shapes of jagged teeth and hollow eyes. The shadows were hungry. With every ounce of will she had left, she bolted toward Jake's voice, even as the dark laughter echoed like a deafening symphony of nightmares. She couldn't stop, couldn't falter. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, the fleeting hope that she could still save her son driving her forward. Ahead, she glimpsed an eerie glimmer of moonlight, a possible escape, but would it lead her to Jake or straight into the jaws of the waiting darkness? And as she neared the light, the laughter crescendoed into a hellish roar, inviting her deeper into the clutches of whatever demons tortured this place. Could she stand against the shadows? Or would she too become one of their grim secrets? The moment Lisa broke through the veil of darkness and into the moonlight, she felt a rush of chill air and the overwhelming scent of earth. It was as if the light itself was alive, vibrating with a palpable energy. Yet that moment of relief was cruelly brief. The shadows behind her swelled, undulating like a living thing, throbbing with hunger, whispering promises of despair. "Jake!" she shouted again, her voice tight in her throat, battling the cacophony of laughter that threatened to drown her. The world felt wrong. Every sound echoed. Every breath she took seemed heavy with anticipation, as if the darkness was waiting for her to make the next move. The moon illuminated a narrow path ahead, winding deeper into the forest. She hesitated. Was this path a way out, or a treacherous trap? The whispers grew louder, swirling in the air like leaves in a whirlwind. "Mommy, help me." It was Jake again, his voice clear enough to cut through the fear. Lisa took a step forward, the urgency propelling her. Each footfall felt like a heart pounding against her chest, the weight of her decision pressing down hard. She moved cautiously, her heart racing as if sensing the danger lurking in the shadows. The gleam of the moonlight painted the trees in stark relief, grotesque shapes that twisted and contorted, reaching for her with gnarled branches, beckoning her closer. The laughter persisted, echoing behind her, taunting her resolve. She's coming, Jake. Is he worth the wait? Does she even care? No. Stop it. Lisa screamed, frustration boiling into rage as she sprinted down the path. The voices clashed, the shadows writhing, elongating into grim figures that danced just out of sight. Each flick that caught her eye sent shivers down her spine. But she pressed on, driven by a singular thought, to find Jake. Mommy! His voice broke through the chaos, sweet and innocent, but it was quickly sullied by the mocking chorus surrounding it. Mommy! Help me! They're coming! Fighting through the rising terror, she quickened her pace, barreling through the undergrowth, thorns snagging at her clothes, skin prickling with every snag, every scrape. She could feel a presence behind her, the dark shadows crawling closer, their breath like icy fingers trailing up her spine. Then she stumbled upon a small clearing, the moonlight spilling like silver across the ground. But it was too quiet, a perfect visualization of what once had been an empty playground devoid of laughter. Rusty swings swayed gently, creaking in the stillness, as if spirits of the past lingered, forever caught in a loop of despair. Jake! Panic coursed through her. Where was he? The shadows didn't relent. They pressed against her, tightening like a noose. A flicker of movement caught her eye near the abandoned sandbox, something small, shifting in the dirt. A chill gripped Lisa's heart. Jake, is that you? Just as she stepped closer, there was a snap behind her. She turned, and for a split second, she thought she had seen him, a figure hunched against the tree line, eyes glimmering with the same pale light of the moon. But before she could call out, it disappeared as quickly as it had come. A cacophony erupted, the laughter intensifying, drowning out everything. She's lost, just like the others, forever trapped. No. Lisa's heart thudded hard as she spun back to the playground, desperation fueling her trepidation. She couldn't breathe. The shadows surged like a tide, whispering her name, and the wind carried the acrid scent of decay closer. Ahead, she spotted something. A small hand emerged from the earth, pushing up towards the light, desperate and trembling. Jake, grab my hand, she cried, her voice cracking as she rushed toward it, hope flaring in her chest, the sound of laughter falling silent. But as she reached for that tiny, outstretched hand, the earth trembled, and the shadows roared, the laughter of the damned echoing louder than ever. For in this moment, she would discover that not all hands are meant to be held, nor all escapes lead to freedom. What would happen when she reached for the truth? Buried in the earth? Would it bring her to her son or seal her fate forever? The ground shuddered beneath Lisa's feet, a quake that echoed in her bones. The shadows pulsed, a dark tide rising to meet her wavering hope. The moment her fingertips brushed the cool earth, the laughter surged back, a cacophony of taunting jeers that sent a fresh surge of terror through her veins. No, she cried, pulling her hand back instinctively, the horror of exposure hitting her like a cold splash of water. The shadowy figures danced closer, flickering just out of reach, their mouths twisting into grins that bore teeth sharper than any blade. Each face a grotesque mask of lost souls, mocking her attempt to save Jake. Her breath came in jagged gasps, panic coating her throat. The outstretched hand was gone, swallowed up by the soil, and the playground had transformed into a theater of despair. The swings creaked, mirroring her racing thoughts as she spun around, desperately searching for any sign of Jake. Jake, where are you? She screamed, voice cracking under the weight of fear. The laughter morphed into hisses, the trees closing in, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands, eager to pull her into their suffocating embrace. Then, silence. An unbearable stillness wrapped around her, thick and heavy, like a blanket stifling her breath. Lisa stood frozen, caught between the lingering echoes of laughter and the pressing darkness that surrounded her. Mommy, help me, the whisper returned, softer now, tinged with love yet laden with an ominous edge. She turned, every muscle tense, scanning the shadows for any movement. The crescent moon high above bathed everything in an eerie glow, illuminating the fear etched on her face. There, A flicker of movement near the base of a nearby tree. She could make out a small figure trembling and crouched low. Hope gleamed in her heart. "Jake!" she called, voice trembling with renewed determination. The figure didn't move, but the whisper grew louder, crawling under her skin. "Come closer, it's safe," her instincts screamed at her to retreat. But each garnered breath from the promise of that innocent voice burgeoned the desperation in her heart. She crept forward, each step heavier than the last, the ground squishing beneath her feet as if it were breathing. "Mommy," there was a dull thud, and the shadows reshaped themselves, morphing into something darker. A figure advanced, peeling away the night, limbs twisting unnaturally, eyes glowing with hunger. "Not him!" Lisa shouted, her voice rising as she rushed toward the small figure on the ground, hoping against all hope that it was Jake. Yet, as she reached, the shadows closed in rapidly, every inch of darkness pulsating with malevolence. The figure that had seemed to be Jake dissolved into the very layers of the earth, dissipating like smoke, leaving behind nothing but a chill that turned the air heavy. "Mommy!" the voice screamed, now layered beneath the laughter, sorrow intertwining with malice. "You've lost him, just like the others." "Shut up!" she screamed back, rage fueling a flicker of bravery. She spun on her heel, wild-eyed, breathing hard. The presence behind her was unmistakable and almost tangible, breathless, cold, waiting to consume her. She ran. Each heartbeat roared in her ears, merging with the growing screams from the shadows. The playground melted away into a blur, and she ran deeper into the forest, branches clawing at her shoulders, roots grasping at her feet. Suddenly, a shimmering figure appeared ahead of her, standing in a shaft of moonlight obscured by shadows. There was no time to think, only react. "Jake!" she screamed, her heart swelling again with that spark of hope. But the laughter returned, now a shrill crescendo that clawed at her sanity. The figure remained still, neither confirming nor denying her pleas. Was it Jake? Or just another trap? As Lisa took another step, fear coiling deep in her gut, the laughter reached a fever pitch, reverberating through the trees. Were the shadows closing in, or was she just losing her grip on reality? "Choose wisely, Mommy." Before she could ponder the warning, the ground trembled once more. Beneath her feet, echoing a promise of despair that no light could diminish. The only question now was whether she would find her son, or if she would become just another whisper in the dark. What choice would she make? The whispers taunted, her path unclear, the shadows relentless. Lisa's feet pounded against the ground as she raced through the trees, desperation fueling her every step. The laughter in the darkness twisted and swirled around her, mocking her attempts to rescue her son. Shadows clawed at her ankles, pulling her back as if the forest itself conspired against her. "Jake!" she screamed again, but the trees seemed to swallow her voice, drowning it in the malevolent whispers that filled the air. She stumbled over a root, falling to her hands and knees, the damp earth chilling her skin. The laughter morphed a sickening crescendo that resonated through her bones. "Mommy, please." The voice was clearer now, filled with a child's fragile hope, yet tainted with a darkness that made her stomach turn. It was coming from right behind her, so close she could feel the air shift. "No!" Lisa shouted, scrambling to her feet, spinning around. Nothing but shadows met her frantic gaze. The figure of that shimmering light felt like a cruel illusion, a promise never meant to be fulfilled. Panic gripped her tightly. Her heart raced in rhythm with an overwhelming tide of despair. "Mommy, help me this time." The voice was a plaintive wail that echoed from the depths of the forest. She felt her resolve weaken. "Jake, I'm coming," she gasped, propelled by a will that felt all but spent. She surged forward again, each step a battle against the engulfing darkness, branches and thorns tearing at her like the talons of a beast. Thorns snagged the fabric of her clothes. She barely noticed. All she could focus on was the voice, the hope that it was not a trick. "I'm here," she cried desperately as she broke through a clearing, panting and wide-eyed. The moonlight illuminated the dim space, revealing a small, gnarled tree stump and a dilapidated swing hanging silently from a rusted chain. Remnants of laughter now long gone. A chill swept over her, leaving a trail of goosebumps down her arms. The shadows around her pulsed as if they were alive, crawling closer with every heartbeat. "Jake!" She screamed into the night, the name feeling like a prayer offered in vain. A wind stirred, whispering through the trees. The sound sent shivers racing up her spine, and she turned slowly, bracing herself for whatever horror might reveal itself this time. In the distance, shapes began to drift closer, flickering in and out of focus like a broken film reel. The grotesque faces emerged again, the same mocking grins, but something deeper lurked in their eyes. "You don't understand, Mommy, it's too late for Jake. Yes, one of us now, shut up," Lisa screamed, her voice hoarse. She stepped back, heart racing as they advanced, closing in with an insatiable hunger swirling behind those hollow sockets. She could feel their breath, cold and rancid, brushing against her skin. And then she saw it, a dark shape not too far away, crouching low, shadows wrapping around it like a shroud. It was small, familiar. "Jake!" she gasped, the name clawing its way through despair as hope bloomed within her chest. But before she could call again, the laughter erupted, thunderous now, writhing in her head, drowning out reason. "It's a deception. Come play with us, Mommy." Lisa's sanity teetered on the edge as she bolted for the crouched figure, her instincts screaming louder than the laughter. No more traps, no more shadows. She would fight. She had to. As she reached the shape, it darted backward into the blackness. Just beyond the reach of her hands, she could hear the echoes of a child's giggle mingling with the hissing whispers. "Choose wisely, Mommy." The voice floated through the air, taunting, chilling her soul. Lisa's breath hitched, and for a moment, everything felt impossibly still, fear suspended like time itself. Now, standing alone, just her and the encroaching darkness, she felt the ground beneath her tremble once more, an ominous promise of despair that no ray of light could pierce. From above came a rumble, a storm brewing, shadows thickening. Would she plunge deeper into the abyss to rescue what remained of her son, or accept the darkness wrapping around her, forever a prisoner of the whispers? In that fragile moment, everything hung in balance, and Lisa stood at the precipice of her greatest terror, unaware of what was yet to come. The echoes of laughter twisted around Lisa, knotting her stomach into tight, painful coils. She stumbled back, casting frantic glances in every direction, the shadows inching closer like a thick fog suffocating any light. "Jake!" she cried again, desperation coloring her voice. The air was stifling, each breath a struggle against an unseen weight pressing down on her chest. "Mommy, help me," the voice was pleading, wavering, an illusion mixed with a chilling reality. It sent chills down her spine, freezing her in place as dread washed over her. Was it really Jake, or another trick crafted by the twisted shadows that haunted this forest? Gritting her teeth, Lisa forced herself into action. She felt the rough bark of the trees close around her, branches snagging at her clothes like claws, each rip a battle scar against the dark. She pushed through, driven by the single thought that she was so close to her son. Flashes of movement caught her eye. The shadow darted again, a flicker just beyond her reach. "Jake!" she screamed, the name ripping from her throat, a plea filled with raw emotion. The trees trembled, and the laughter morphed again, a cacophony of derision that clanged around her ears. "You'll never find him," they jeered, voices blending into a haunting melody. A rash of panic surged through her, but she forced her mind to calm. "I won't give in," she whispered. Gathering every ounce of strength, she sprinted toward the last place she saw the shape, her heart pounding like a war drum. The dim light of the moon framed her path, illuminating the ground ahead just enough for her to navigate the gnarled roots. But then everything turned upside down as a scream pierced the air, so chilling it felt like ice driving straight through her heart. That it was loud, shrill, echoing against the thick woodlands. "Jake!" She could hardly breathe as she spun to find the origin of the sound. Her gut tightened. It came from the clearing she had just left. Without thinking, she dashed back, the fear turning her legs to lead. When she broke through the trees again, she froze. The swing was moving slightly, creaking in the eerie silence, as if someone had just jumped off it. A thread of hope burst in her chest, but that hope was fleeting. The figures loomed like nightmares made flesh, their eyes burning with a malicious joy. Yes, ours now, Mommy. Join us. The grotesque faces snickered, their mouths curled into cruel smiles. The air thickened, the laughter surging around her, hitting her from all sides. No, no, no. Lisa gasped, shaking her head violently. She could feel her heart racing, beating against the walls of her chest like a trapped animal. But then, at the edge of the clearing, something stirred. Mommy, the voice was small, vulnerable, a mirage in the madness. She tore her gaze away from the creatures, focusing on the flickering shadow that clutched the gnarled stump. Jake, she shouted, her voice breaking. He was there, trembling but alive beneath a swirling mass of darkness. Strings of shadow wound around him tightly, pulling him back. Help me, he pleaded, those big blue eyes widening in fear. Dread pooled in her stomach. The very shadows that tormented her seemed to have him wrapped in their evil embrace. I'm coming, baby. But just as she tried to reach for him, the shadows thickened, spilling like ink around her son, swallowing him whole. The laughter returned, more menacing than ever, reverberating through the clearing. Choose wisely, Mommy, it echoed sinisterly. In that moment, horror-struck, was this a choice? Would her own darkness betray her resolve? The ground beneath her trembled as the shadows reached for her, the cold grasp cutting like knives against her skin. Lisa was standing at a crossroads. One path led deeper into an abyss of despair, the other towards a sliver of hope. Would she step forward and risk everything, or would she succumb to the darkness, believing the whispers that promised safety? A burst of thunder rolled overhead, lightning illuminating the twisted trees. For a heartbeat, a shadowy serpent coiling, ready to strike. And as the storm closed in, a final choice loomed ahead, a decision that would alter the course of her soul forever. Lightning cracked again, brightening the clearing for just a moment, casting haunting silhouettes of twisted trees, making the grotesque figures seem even more monstrous. Lisa's heart raced, a thunderous rhythm of terror. The shadows stretched, pulsating closer, their whispers growing louder, more urgent. Join us, fury ignited within her. She wasn't ready to surrender. Let him go, she screamed, though her voice wavered. Each word felt futile in the face of that insidious laughter. Mommy, Jake's whimper reached her again, aching and raw, cutting through the madness. The shadows quivered, like they were uncertain, but still maintained their grip around him, growing thicker, darker. Jake, I'll find you. I promise. She took a step forward, but dread held her back, a magnetic force pulling her toward despair. The laughter echoed, taunting, a venomous chant that sent shivers cascading down her spine. The shadows undulated, forming forms of despair, faces of those Lisa lost, faces floating out of her memories, twisted and grotesque. Your past will consume you, one sinister voice hissed, its eyes glinting with malice. Memories of her failures, lost opportunities, scraped knees and heartbreaks flashed before her eyes, a relentless barrage threatening to drown her in sorrow. No! She gasped, pushing herself to breathe. This wasn't the end. She wouldn't allow them to take her son or her sanity. Jake needs me. In that moment, desperation fused with something stronger, resolve. She could feel the weight of the shadows slowly lifting as she fought against their relentless pull. You win, she screamed, plunging forward despite all warning signs. Her feet carried her toward Jake, every step a battle against the cooling grip of the shadows that tried to wrap around her ankles. As she drew closer, she felt their icy breath harden against her skin, trying to steer her away. It's hopeless, Mommy, they hissed like 1,000 serpents. Just let it go. But darkness had its limitations. Lisa felt the tendrils of the shadows falter as she closed the distance. No, you don't own me, she shouted, her voice echoing with a power she didn't know she had. Suddenly, the shadows surrounding Jake seemed to pause, just long enough for her to reach him. Mom, help me, he cried, tears shimmering in the dim light, his hands straining against the encroaching darkness. Time slowed. Her heart expanded, filling with the love of a mother refusing to let go. With a surge of adrenaline, Lisa lunged forward, grasping Jake's hands tightly. The mingled fear and anguish reflected in his eyes ignited her determination. And in that instant, the shadows recoiled, hissing in rage as Lisa pulled her son free. "We're leaving," she spat defiantly. Her whisper of victory echoed into the void, the dark energy surrounding them writhing, wrestling against their escape. Yet just as they began to run, a heavier darkness seeped in, more malevolent than before. It reshaped itself, forming a towering figure, the embodiment of all their fears. "You think you can escape?" it bellowed, a voice deep and twisted, rumbling like the sky ready to unleash its fury. Lisa's heart stammered, dread flooding her senses. This was no mere battle against shadows. This was something ancient and powerful, feeding on their fears, thriving on their pain. In that moment, the air crackled violently with energy, the storm thickening around them, a swirling mix of fear and chaos. The ground beneath their feet quaked, the forest alive with fury. With a final surge, Lisa pulled Jake closer, but uncertainty flickered in her mind. Would they survive this confrontation? As the dark force loomed above, blotting out the moonlight and hope, she could only fight against the suffocating darkness that beckoned her to give in. And as realization struck, she faced the horrific truth: there were no guarantees in this fight for life. What would she sacrifice? And, ultimately, was she ready to face her own darkness to save her son? The towering figure loomed, a mass of swirling darkness and jagged edges, its eyes two orbs of pure malice that burned into her soul. "You cannot run from your past, nor can you shield him from fate." The voice boomed, shaking the very ground beneath them. Lisa felt the tremor in her bones, doubt seeping into her resolve. She gripped Jake's hands tighter, the warmth of his small fingers a lifeline in the encroaching darkness. "Just keep running," she shouted, thrusting all her weight into the pull of escaping shadows. But the ground heaved, and the air grew thick, wrapping around her throat like a vice. She willed her legs to move, but time seemed to slow, the world narrowing to the monstrous figure's voice that taunted them. "Do you honestly believe your love is enough? You are too weak." "No," she screamed back, allowing her fear to ignite a dangerous fire inside her. "I am stronger than you think." The shadows writhed as if wounded, recoiling from her words. Lisa mustered every ounce of courage. She recalled moments spent with Jake, the laughter, the shared dreams, each memory a flicker of light carving through the enveloping darkness. "We will not be your victims," she roared. But the entity only laughed, a sound that chilled her blood. It stepped closer, forming grotesque limbs that twisted, ready to ensnare them. "You may fight, but you will not win." Suddenly, the wind howled, creating a tempest that battered against them. Lisa felt her hair whipping around her face, each strand a reminder of the impending doom. "Get behind me, Jake," she urged, trying to conceal him from the encroaching figure. The storm intensified, branches snapping and leaves whipping around until she could barely see. Amid the chaos, she heard a wailing cry, not from the beast but from the shadows themselves, as if they were terrified of something greater. The entity faltered, anger vibrating in its form. "You think you can frighten me with your turmoil? Not just my turmoil, but my love," Lisa exclaimed. Buckling her knees, she pushed down, grounding herself against the fear. "We'll be free." Light broke through the storm as she lunged again, pulling Jake with her, breaking free from the grasp of thick, dark shadows. They barreled into the clearing, unmoored from the creeping tendrils of despair. But through the muffled sounds of the tempest, she could feel the anger of the shadowy figure consuming the air around them. "Foolish woman," it screeched, seeping backward, its form bubbling with rage. "This is not over." Just as they were almost beyond the reach of darkness, Lisa glanced back. The entity writhed and twisted, dark energy thrusting outward, forming a long tendril reaching for them. "Mom!" Jake gasped, his eyes wide with fear as the chilling grasp swirled towards them, closing in like a vice. "No!" she shouted, but as she turned to protect him, it struck with a sudden force. A sharp pain shot through her arm, a cold burn that sapped her strength. Suddenly, weightlessness enveloped them as everything went black in that abyss. Lisa found herself submerged in a flood of memories, the faces of the lost, guilty laughter, her own mistakes. The darkness morphed into echoes of her past. The entity's voice rang out, mingled with her own thoughts. Join us as comprehension clashed with her instinct to fight. She clutched Jake's hand. Would she succumb to the shadows, weighed down by her own guilt? Or could she forge a path through this labyrinth of despair? Just when hope was flickering like a candle in the wind, a spark ignited deep within her. I won't give in. We'll find a way. And yet, shadows danced around them, whispering their ancient secrets. Could love withstand the weight of the past? Could she actually fight her way back into the light? The air thickened, and the answer lay, hidden in the depths of her own darkness. Lisa awoke in a haze of darkness, her thoughts a jumble, memories foggy and elusive. She felt disoriented, floating in the emptiness that threatened to shroud her once more. The warmth of Jake's hand slipped away, panic flaring in her chest. "Jake!" she cried out, her voice thin, swallowed by the heavy gloom. The shadows stirred, filling the space with an unsettling whisper. "You've lost him, your time has come." But Lisa was done with their twisted lies. She rose, fueling her spirit with every ounce of love she had for her son. "No!" she screamed into the abyss, the sound ringing fiercely, pushing back against the dark. "I won't let you take him. You can't have us." The shadows quivered, uncertain, as she conjured thoughts of Jake's laughter, his childish wonder, the joy they once shared. Images flared before her, baking cookies together, watching him ride his bike for the first time, the sparkle in his eyes that melted her heart. Suddenly, the weight of darkness that had been pressing upon her began to shift. She could feel something moving, a flicker of light, distant yet calling to her. "Jake!" she shouted, lunging forward into that warmth. "I'm coming." She felt a rush as she hurtled through layers of shadow, breaking through the chilling silence. Just ahead loomed a faint image, the silhouette of something familiar. Was it Jake? But then the laughter erupted, piercing and chaotic. "Come back. You belong to us. Not this time." Clenching her fists in determination, she charged toward the light, fueled by raw, unyielding love. The laughter faltered, wavers of fear tinting the air. "No, you can't escape." Defiance surged through Lisa as she broke through into a clear space. The gentle moonlight bathed her, igniting hope within her core. "I will not be your prisoner," she declared, gazing into the unfolding light and taking firm steps toward it. "Mommy," the voice soared across the clearing, soft yet filled with yearning. Lisa's heart thudded as she rushed forward, the oppressive shadows retreating behind her, echoing with frustration. "I'm here, Jake. I'm right here." As she pulled herself into the opening, she could see him, little Jake, illuminated by the light of love that stitched their connection tighter than any darkness. His face was wet with tears, his small body trembling but so alive, so vibrant. The shadows that danced around him twisted with fury but couldn't breach that sacred glow. Without hesitation, she reached out, wrapping her arms around him, grounding them both in that moment. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry," she cried, pressing her face into the soft texture of his hair to breathe in the scent of him. The shadows hissed, laced with the bitterness of defeat, flaring around them, almost grasping for a final, desperate shot at revenge. But Lisa felt a power she had never known before. With a firm grip on Jake, she turned to confront the dark maw. "We are stronger than you'll ever understand." With every ounce of fury and love, she surged toward the approaching darkness, illuminating the air with a brilliant glow that rippled around them. And in that moment of truth, they dove into the light together, plunging back through the shadows that tried to shove them back, hissing and thrashing wildly. Light erupted like a phoenix, the darkness raking back into the void from whence it came. The laughter turned to howls, a distant echo as they triumphed over the chaos. Her surroundings began to transform, the polished wood of their home shimmering into view, strikingly familiar yet somehow sacred. Lisa and Jake stumbled into the entrance, breathless but safe, surrounded by the warmth of their reality. The shadows that had haunted them began to dissolve, retreating like a bad dream. "Are we okay, Mommy?" Jake asked, blinking up at her, his blue eyes wide with confusion and the remnants of fear. "Yes, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice trembling, dragging him close for another reassuring hug. "We're safe. We're finally safe." As she held him tight, the intense guilt and weight fell away, dissipating into the acknowledgement of their brave fight together. And as the first rays of dawn crept through the window, washing over them in a golden light, they knew they had faced their fears and emerged victorious. "Together," she said with a smile, looking into Jake's eyes, "we can face anything. Always together." Somewhere deep in the distance, the whispers faded, lost but never forgotten. They had conquered the shadows, sealing their bond forever in the soft glow of a new day. And as the light wrapped around them both, it promised hope. Now, if you enjoyed this heart-pounding conclusion and need more riveting tales, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support by smashing that like button. Feed the algorithm to keep our passion alive. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about what just happened. I want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who love a good thrill. Let's spread the excitement together.